You go without a hat.
I was feeling dangerous today. But
okay.
Next time I will take your mom's advice. Probably tomorrow I will have that. Yeah. I know that y'all been touring all over. Does it become a blur after a while, after you've done so many shows?
That's a good question because we've done a few interviews today and we were able to remember in minute detail some of the events that happened in the distant past, like even before you were born.
Yeah.
And yet, in other ways, it does become a blur. So I'd say the answer to that would be yes and no.
I agree with that.
Tours have a way of blurring while you're in the midst of them. I remember having that problem of not knowing which language to say please and thank you in and where the hell I am tonight or last night.
And like paying with the wrong currency, you do that all the time.
Exactly. Man. But then, some time passes and the memories begin to congeal and your brain congeals again and,
That's kind of an awesome problem to have, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's not even a problem.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. It's not even a problem.
I wish I could forget which currency I was supposed to.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, and then I gotta remember which bank account did I have that extra blah blah thousands. Oh man, I'm gonna have to check them all.
So, what's your favorite non-U.S. city to play?
Oh boy, there's so many. We just were in Australia. And a lot of fun places there to play.
Yeah, Australia has been traditionally one of our favorite spots to the extent that I moved there and became an Australian citizen, so probably we say Australia.
Wow. What about Australia is that for you?
They have a very relaxed lifestyle and less materialistic attitude than we have in the States, and also they're very far away from many of the world's problems.
Well, personally, I never think about this. I never thought about it in the 1980s, 1990s. I just don't think about this thing, and often there'll be a journalist or somebody which, do think about these things, and then ask me, and I pretty much have nothing to say about it. I don't think about it. And to me, it doesn't matter really what's current, because I'm always finding out about some group or an artist or something that I wonder, how is it I never heard about this person before, found out about them before, and it could be from years ago. But I'm just finding out about it now, and then I'm excited about that now. So for me, that's current. But I think these gentlemen I'm quite sure they're much more involved with actually current musical events and things, so I'll let them say something.
Okay.
I had this discussion recently with it was a classical musician, and they said something like, oh, there just aren't as many good composers as there were several hundred years ago. And I said, that's ridiculous, because, the amount of people in the world several hundred years ago would be only about 5% of the amount of people so there are probably more good composers in China today than there were in the entire world 300 years ago. We just don't know who they are yet because time hasn't sifted them out. So I'd say an optimistic viewpoint would be to say that more good music is being made by more great musicians than at any other point in history, and this is probably just as much a matter of demographics as aesthetics, because it just seems unlikely that there aren't more people making great music today than there ever were before.
Although there is a little bit of a trend, or a lot of a trend in popular music, it seems to me that each generation as it goes, the previous generation thinks that the new generation is making the worst music that is ever. Like it's gone so far down. I just find that interesting, that I think a lot of people have that view.
And I think it's true what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's true.
Right.
Because all you got to do is look at some of the stuff from the past and how bad it was. Certainly. Like if there's an '80s night, I'm just like, oh no. So it's like,
Well, it's all it's mostly the music that I didn't like at the time, you know, and now it's, but there are people.
but Vig is
love
from a
all
different.
kinds of
He's from the current, almost like he's just leaving the current generation behind, but he's closer to.
Bye bye.
It, so maybe you should say something.
Yeah. Well, it's you both have really. I thought that was a very beautiful way that you answered that question. I tend to feel a lot more animosity, not at the people making the music.
And you,
How do you
I
really
feel
feel?
that hate all the way over here.
As soon as
Oh
you
my
answered
God.
that question, I started to get like hot, and I felt my knuckles kind of tense up because my biggest gripe is that I feel like a lot of youth culture has been sort of robbed of the excitement and feeling of anger and frustration and rebellion and excitement. I, with great optimism, frequently go through the pages of like Pitchfork or this or that, trying to find like whatever new bands are coming out and from all styles, and I feel like there's been a really strong trend over the last 6 or 7 years. I mean, it's going on a long time, much longer than I expected, where there's just this very placid, calm, everyone's just fine or doesn't really care too much, and there's like no one really going like fuck this anymore.
Yeah.
Or if they do, it's so hyper marketed and like minuscule down that it's like very mollified, and it's, you know, you can sort of like pre-sell every little detail of what the rebellious image is to kids, and that's very difficult for me to deal with because growing up I felt like we had a lot of great music
Yeah.
that expressed what my generation was going through, and maybe that's cool, but it's hard for me to swallow that kids are just completely fine with everything going on.
Right.
I don't think that's inherently part of being young. You sort of look around.
Well,
and
they're
go like,
pacified with those computers, and,
That's a
and
huge part of
so
it. Yep.
it's quite likely that they don't spend time thinking about stuff because they're constantly ingesting new information from the computer screen, and they don't have time to get angry about stuff.
That's entirely true, and I've even seen it in people that I've made music with. For example, and there's no harm in me saying this, but Amanda Palmer used to say, I would normally write a song when I had a thought about something, and now I blog about it. And she said, and now even I don't really blog as much, now I just tweet about it. And that's sort of like a microcosm, I think, for a lot of people, or maybe creative types, who found a shortcut. So that, I hope it gets counterbalanced.
Yeah.
But I still think that we can say there's a lot of good music being made. Maybe it's not good protest music, but other kinds of music.
And see, that goes back to what you're saying. I think that maybe a lot more people have switched over to hip hop. I think because they feel that it's kind of visceral for a lot of people.
Sure.
Well, you just brought up a good point, which is that Gordon and I were from the generation where there was really nothing cooler that a young man could do than form a rock band. That was the pinnacle, you know, that was better than being an astronaut or anything. So it was like, now you could have a hip hop, you could become a hip hop artist, or you could become an electronic producer, or you could become video game designer, or you could become a web designer. There's all kinds of other things that are just as cool or cooler than being in a rock band. So when you said, what about the state of rock? I'd say, well, it's obvious that the state of rock has eroded in terms of its importance in the youth culture, but maybe that's okay. I mean, rock would have never been anything if jazz hadn't faded. You know, it's
Right.
like the natural order of things.